رمضان أقبل بعد طول غيابي ففرحت فيه مهنئا أحبابي خير الشهور به النفوس تعلقت واستسلمت للخالق الوهاب.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And as I was saying that, I just remembered that I needed to take my watch off, which I have done now. Welcome to Ramadan Recital Reminder 27 of our series Syncing with the Qur'an, our special series to commemorate and remember the Qur'an, as it is the month of the Qur'an. And for most individuals now in the masajids, they will be coming to a close, those who, if they haven't done so already, and have finished the full recitation and the full listening, both are rewarded, of the Qur'an from Surah Al-Fatiha open till Surah Al-Nas, and then back again to the start of Surah Al-Baqarah. As for us, we're not there quite yet. We are still on the 27th. We have 27th, 28th, 29th, 30th. And it could possibly be that we've only got 3 more days or 29 days of Ramadan. As a result, we will be left with the 30th para. But rest assured, it will be ready for you to listen to on Eid day, inshallah ta'ala, if you get time. If not, the day after or the day after that. But at least let it serve as a reminder. Okay? Let it serve as a reminder that, we don't forget the Quran again now for another year. Khair, anyway, with that introduction, let's make a start. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Qala fama khatbukum ayyuhal mursalun. So what is your address? What is your statement? What is your proclamation? What is it you have to say, O messengers? Qalu, they said, Inna ursilna ila qawmin mujrimin. Indeed, we have been sent towards a sinning people. لِنُرْسِلَ عَلَيْهِمْ هِجَارَةً مِّن طِينٍ, in order that we send down upon them stones made of clay, مُسَوَّمَةً عِنْدَ رَبِّكَ لِلْمُسْرِفِينَ, which will be named on there by your Rabb, لِلْمُسْرِفِينَ, for those who are transgressors. فَأَخْرَجْنَا مَنْ كَانَ فِيهَا مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ, so that we could take out from those who are in there who are the believers. فَمَا وَجَدْنَا فِيهَا غَيْرَ بَيْتٍ مِنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ, and we have not found in there غَيْرَ بَيْتٍ مِنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ, any home that belongs to the Muslims. وَتَرَكْنَا فِيهَا آيَةً لِلَّذِينَ يَخَافُونَ الْعَذَابَ الْأَلِيمَ, and we have left a sign there for those individuals who fear the painful punishment. وَفِي مُوسَى إِذَا أَرْسَلْنَاهُ إِلَى فِرْعَوْنَ بِسُلْطَانٍ مُبِينٍ, and also there is a recollection, there is also a tale, there is also information, there is also a remembrance for us, a point of lesson for us in the story of Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, when we sent him to Fir'aun bisultanin, with a clear strength, a proof, a clear authority. فَتَوَلَّى بِرُكْنِهِ وَقَالَ سَاحِرٌ أَوْ مَجْنُونَ, so he turned around with his colleagues and his companions, and he said that this man, i.e. Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, is a magician or he is insane. فَأَخَذْنَاهُ وَجُنُودَهُ, and so we took him to task, we grabbed him and his armies. فَنَبَذْنَاهُمْ فِي الْيَمِّ, and we cast them into the sea. وَهُمْ مُلِيمٌ, and they were blameworthy. So it wasn't as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had taken them to task for nothing. So we can't blame Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for our actions when we're clearly doing something contrary to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has requested us to do. Then we can't expect anything but a punishment. We don't expect anything else from the police. We don't expect anything else from the judicial system. We don't expect anything else from the school, college, university principals or the employees. If we looked in the employer area, the CEO or the boss, what do we expect? وَفِي عَادٍ إِذَا أَرْسَلْنَا, and also there is a story, something to reflect over and ponder over with respect to Ad alayhi salatu, إِذَا أَرْسَلْنَا, when we sent him عَلَيْهِمُ الرِّحْ, and we sent rather against them, Qawmi Ad, I'm just getting confused there, and in Qawmi Ad there's also when we sent against them the Rih al-Aqim, the barren wind. Okay, ma tadhuru min shay'in atat alayhi illa ja'alathu karramim, and we did not spare anybody there at all, except that it made them, the city and the people within it, the dwellers, karramim, like something rotten or something which was decomposing. وَفِي ثَمُودَ, and also in Thamud there is an example for you. إِذْ قِيلَ لَهُمْ, when it was said to them, تَمَتَّعُوا, take benefit, حَتَّى حِينٍ, for a short while. فَأَتَوْا عَنْ أَمْرِ رَبِّهِمْ, so they renegated and went against the order of their Rabb. فَأَخَذَتْهُمُ الصَّاعِقَةُ, so the shriek grabbed them, وَهُمْ يَنْزُرُونَ, whilst they were waiting and watching. فَمَا اسْتَطَاعُوا مِنْ قِيَامٍ وَمَا كَانُوا مُنْتَصِرِينَ, so it did not benefit them from staying there, living there, nor could they help themselves. وَقَوْمَ نُوحٍ مِنْ قَبْلِ, and also the people of Nuh alayhi salatu wasalam from before. إِنَّهُمْ كَانُوا قَوْمًا فَاسِقِينَ, indeed they were a transgressing people. وَالسَّمَاءَ بَنَيْنَاهَا بِأَيْدٍ وَإِنَّا لَمُوسِئُونَ, and also the skies we have made them to stretch. وَإِنَّا, and we are لَمُوسِئُونَ, able to extend the vastness over the space. وَالْأَرْضَ فَرَشْنَاهَا فَنِعْمَ الْمَاهِدُونَ, and the earth we spread that out, and the breast we are in spreading. وَمِنْ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ خَلَقْنَا زَوْجَيْنِ, and from every single thing we have made pairs. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَذَكَّرُونَ, in order that you may reflect. So this is again Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala giving us opportunities to reflect. So here we have had in this, and you see in a more, as we get to the end of the Qur'an, that doesn't mean that the Qur'an is being placed in chronological order, but as we get to the end of the Qur'an, we see the message is shorter and snappy. It's very to the point. It's very, very simple to understand. This is not going into great detail. In a way, you could argue it's a very much of a summary of what we've been discussing over the last weeks and month, really. And it's now bringing it all together. So we've had historical context put forward for us to try to understand, and also we've been given narrations and stories of people of the past in order for us to reflect over and analyze and reason and rationalize. And also then we're given things to ponder, and observe. Here we're talking about every single thing having a pair, everything being in pairs, so that we reflect and ponder over that. But then what should be the outcome of all of this pondering and reflecting and observing? So what should be, following the empirical method that we employ, the rational method that we employ, looking at the world and everything around us, what should happen next? فَفِرُّوا إِلَى اللَّهِ, we should then accept that this is not being created, this has not come about by chance, that there is a creator. That's the conclusion we're supposed to come to. Science isn't in itself, a desirable subject, not in itself. It's what it leads to. You see, science makes a person come out from the confines and the blind acceptance of what people of the past are telling us. What science does is allow us to be open-minded enough to use our eyes and use our brain to reach a conclusion which is not tainted by any sort of past thinking or any past understanding. And if we were to look at the world with an open mind, and if we were to think about the world with reasoning skills and using reason which is not polluted or tainted by anything, then we will reach a conclusion that there is a creator. That's the one we will reach without any shadow of doubt. And not only will we reach that there's a creator, that there is only one creator. There's only one. And that will then lead us to say, who is this one creator? Well, that we can't get through science. Who is this one creator? What's his name? What does he want from us? What's the purpose of this world that we found out now that it's been created? What's the purpose of me now that I find out that I've been created? Where are we going with all of this? What's going to happen after? We know that we're in this world. Where was I before this world? What happens to me after this world? What is me? What makes me me? Is it my body? Well, my body's changed over, the last 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years. And I've changed as a person, but I was always me. So what is this me? And what is a soul? So what makes us so distinct from all other creatures? We're organic based. Clearly we can use our hands far better than anything else, any other creature can, which has allowed us to use tools and develop. But there's been something else that's being developed, is the brain has been continuously being developed. This brain has got better. So this brain itself and the skills that we've learned from it, this is a rare gift that we've been given. And no other creature has this brain. And what we can do with this brain is remarkable. But it's not only that, it's not just our brain which makes us remarkable. And it's not just the fact that we can, use technology because of the way our hands are and the way we can move around. But it's even better than that. It's the fact that we can sort of think and do what's right And even though that could be at our own detriment, and don't do that instinctively. There are certain things that we do instinctively. You know, we see a child in front of a bus and we instinctively jump to move the child out of the way. Those are instinctive. We're talking about those things where we sit, reflect, ponder, and then we take steps. Because any creature, even some creatures, will instinctively do certain things. And what is instinct? Well, that's something else. وَلَا تَجْعَلُوا مَعَ اللَّهِ إِلَهًا آخَرَ, and don't make with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala another God. إِنِّي لَكُم مِّنْهُ نَذِيرٌ مُبِينٌ, indeed I am for you, إِنِّي لَكُم, I am for you rather, from him, meaning from Allah, a clear warner. كَذَلِكَ مَا أَتَى الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ مِنْ رَسُولٍ إِلَّا قَالُوا سَاحِرٌ أَوْ مَجْنُونَ. And similarly, when it came to those people who were before them, any messenger or anything, they would say the same things. They would either say he's a magician or he's insane. That's the way they would try to reason with it. Why would they try to reason with it? So they don't need to follow. They could keep people in the dark. They could keep people believing in whatever they wanted to tell them. So we saw people like Pharaoh in the past, and we saw other people in the past. And now we have the so-called new atheist scientists who kind of tell us what we should be thinking and what we should be believing. They don't tell us to let us think for ourselves. They don't say, you know, reach the conclusion yourself. They want to taint that. They want to drive that. They want to control that, so that we're not possible to be able to, so that we're slaves to their model way of life. We're slaves to the system. And really Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to take us out of all those forms of slavery and say the only slavery which is an honorable slavery, the only slavery which is actually a respectful slavery, because all other types of slavery is demeaning. It's bringing the status of a human lower, because all other forms of slavery is either he's slave to his ego, or he's slave to another person. And these are both demeaning and low. Whereas being a slave to Allah is actually a very high status, because not any other creature can claim that. Because we choose to worship Allah. No other creature chooses to do so. Animals instinctively have to accept the existence of Allah. Angels instinctively pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whereas we choose to. So this gives us a very high status. So that's the one type of slavery which is of a very high status. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. And here is one ayat which makes it crystal clear as to what the purpose of humans are. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ, and I have not created jinn nor mankind except that they should worship me. مَا أُرِيدُ مِنْهُم مِّن رِزْقٍ وَمَا أُرِيدُ أَن يُطْعِمُونَ. And I do not intend by that any rizq, and neither do I, meaning in return, neither do I want to feed me. Inna Allah huwa razaq. Indeed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is razaq, and He is the one of possessor of great strength. فَإِنَّ لِلَّذِينَ زَلَمُوا ذُنُوبًا مِثْلَ ذُنُوبِ أَصْحَابِهِمْ. And indeed, as for those who oppress the portion of, similar to the portion of sins of those who their colleagues, فَلَا تَسْتَعْجِلُوا, they don't hasten that on. فَوَيْلٌ لِلَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا مِنْ يَوْمِهِمُ الَّذِي يُوعَدُونَ. So woe to those individuals who deny the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from their day, that which they were threatened and promised. And next we turn to Surah Tur. وَالطُّورِ, and the Mount Tur, وَكِتَابٍ مَسْطُورٍ, and the scribed book, فِي رَقِّبٍ مَنْشُورٍ, in a rolled out parchment, or sorry, in an unrolled parchment, sort of, in a parchment there. And وَالْبَيْتِ الْمَعْمُورِ, and in the frequented house which is directly above the Kaaba. وَالسَّقْفِ الْمَرْفُوعِ, and in the raised roof. وَالْبَحْرِ الْمَسْجُورِ, and in the boiling blaze sea. إِنَّ عَذَابَ رَبِّكَ لَوَاقِعٌ, indeed the punishment of your Rabb is lawaqi, going to happen. مَا لَهُ مِن دَافِعٍ, there is no one to repel it. يَوْمَ تَمُورُ السَّمَاءُ مَوْرًا, on that day when the skies will shake, a shaking. وَتَسِيرُ الْجِبَالُ سَيْرًا, and the mountains will move away. فَوَيْلُ يَوْمَئِذٍ لِلْمُكَذِّبِينَ, so woe on that day to those who were deniers. الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي خَوْضٍ يَلْعَبُونَ, those who in their falsehood were playing around. So here, very distinct, very sharp, very to the point, referring to the end of days and the signs and what we will see in terms of how the earth will be moving and how the earth will change. The seas will be boiling, and we don't expect the seas to be ablaze and boiling like oil. The earth itself will be moving. The mountains, which are the most secure things upon the surface of the earth, will be moving as well. As for the people of taqwa, innal muttaqina fi jannati wa na'im, and indeed as for those people in Jannah, they will be in gardens and bliss. Fakihina bima atahum rabbuhum, they'll be content and happy by what their Rabb has given them. Wa waqahum rabbuhum adhab al-jahim, and their Rabb will save them from the blazing fire. Kulu washrabu, eat and drink hani'an, with happiness, bima kuntum ta'malun, because of that which you've been given. Muttaqiina ala surrin masfufa, and they'll be reclining upon couches, masfufa, arranged in rows. وَزَوَّجْنَاهُمْ بِحُورِئِينَ, and we will wed them to the huri'in. وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَاتَّبَعَتْهُمْ ذُرِّيَّتُهُمْ بِإِيمَانٍ أَلْحَقْنَا بِهِمْ ذُرِّيَّتُهُمْ وَمَا أَلَتْنَاهُمْ مِنْ عَمَلِهِمْ مِنْ شَيْءٍ كُلُّ امْرِئٍ بِمَا كَسَبَ رَهِينٌ. And as for those people who believe and their children follow them in belief, then we will join them together. We will join their children with them. وَمَا أَلَتْنَاهُمْ, and we will not decrease them min amalihim, in any actions in any way. Every individual will be given what he earns as a pledge. So here we see that even if the children don't reach the status of their parents or their parent, and their parent becomes a very highly pious individual, a person of great taqwa, and he was to enter Jannah, and he was to get an abode possibly much higher up than his children will obviously require iman, and if they enter, obviously if they have iman, they will enter into Jannah. And when they enter Jannah, they find that they're much lower down than their parents, because their parents were very pious or they did lots of good deeds or whatever. Then they will still be able to join up with their parents, okay, and they will not be reduced. So it won't be that they will be reduced, their parents' actions will be reduced in order for them to return back to their parents. The benefit that they will have is that they will reach up to their parents because of the fact that they followed their parents but could not achieve what their parents had achieved. وَأَمْدَدْنَاهُمْ بِفَاكِهَةٍ وَلَحْمٍ مِّمَّا يَشْتَهُونَ, and we will extend them with fruits and meat from that which they desire. يَتَنَازَعُونَ فِيهَا كَأْسًا لَا لَغْوٌ فِيهَا وَلَا تَأْثِيمٌ, and we will move around in between them, hand to hand. They will be able to pass on to one another, and there will be a glass which they will pass it on, in which there will be no futile talk and no sin. So there'll be no concept of sin. First of all, those things which are abhorrent to a normal human, those things will not enter our minds anyway. But those which are a normal human behavior, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had made them a sin, they will no longer be a sin. There will be no sins there. And any futile talk which is of no benefit whatsoever, or talk which is winding somebody up or doing their ghibah or disrespecting them, that you won't find there. So a lot of times we get hurt by people because of what they say or what they don't say, or what they say behind our backs, or what they say to our faces. So a lot of times that happens to us and we feel a lot of pain because of that. Well, Jannah is a place where that won't take place at all. وَيَطُوفُ عَلَيْهِمْ غِلْمَانٌ لَهُمْ كَأَنَّهُمْ لُؤْلُؤٌ مَكْنُونٌ, and will go around them young boys who will be serving them, and they will be like concealed pearls, or concealed pearls. وَأَقْبَلَ بَعْضُهُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ يَتَسَاءَلُونَ, and some of them will be facing others, asking one another questions. قالوا إنا كنا قبل في أهلنا مشفقين, indeed we were from before in our families in fear. فمن الله علينا, so Allah SWT has favored us. ووقانا عذاب السموم, and He has saved us from the punishment of the fire. إنا كنا من قبل ندعوه, even from before we used to call on Him, supplicate to Him. إنه هو البر الرحيم. فذكر, remember, فَمَا أَنْتَ بِنِعْمَةِ رَبِّكَ بِكَاهِنٍ وَلَا مَجْنُونٍ, and you aren't, by the favor of your Rabb, a soothsayer, nor are you a madman. أَمْ يَقُولُونَ شَاعِرٌ نَتَرَبَّصُ بِهِ رَيْبَ الْمَمْنُونَ, and they say that he is a poet, but we wait for it, the time of their calamity, or some calamity which will befall them. قُلْ, say, تَرَبَّصُوا, wait, take your time. فَإِنِّي مَعَكُمْ مِنَ الْمُتَرَبِّصِينَ, I am with you also waiting for this to happen. أَمْ تَأْمُرُهُمْ أَحْلَامُهُمْ, or do you order or do their minds order with this? أَمْ هُمْ قَوْمٌ طَاغُونَ, or are they a rebellious people? أَمْ يَقُولُونَ تَقَوَّلَهُ, or are they saying that you fabricated it, you made it up, it didn't exist before? بَلْ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ, rather these are all excuses, these are all things that they're putting in front of you, one theory or another. The bottom line is, لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ, they don't want to believe. Why do they want to believe? Because they're going to be accountable, and when they want to be accountable, they can't live the life they want to live. They can't make their own life, they can't make their own rules, they can't follow their arrogance, they can't follow their whims and desires. فَلْيَأْتُوا بِحَدِيثٍ مِّن مِثْلِ إِن كَانُوا صَادِقِينَ, so bring a statement similar to it if you are to be truthful. أَمْ خُلِقُوا مِنْ غَيْرِ شَيْءٍ أَمْ هُمُ الْخَالِقُونَ, are they created from nothing, or are they themselves the creators? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning that to them 1400 years ago. أَمْ خُلِقُوا مِنْ غَيْرِ شَيْءٍ, are you created from nothing, or are you the creators? That's the only other alternative theories that you have. أَمْ خَلَقُوا السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ, or did you create the heavens and the earth? بَلْ لَا يُوقِنُونَ, rather they have no yaqeen, they don't believe at all. So you can see the nature of the ayat, short, to the point, really hammering the nail home to make the point and stress this difference between these two groups of people. A group of people sort of beset upon trying to reach Jahannam and standing up as opponents against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, denying His existence, denying their creation, being of a creation, accepting that they were brought about by chance in the most ridiculous theory that they can accept because it's the only alternative, and as ridiculous as it sounds, it will be made to fit no matter what. أَمْ يُرِيدُونَ كَيْدًا فَالَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا هُمُ الْمَكِيدُونَ وَإِنْ يَرَوْا كِسْفًا مِنَ السَّمَاءِ سَاقِطًا يَقُولُونَ سَحَابٌ مَرْكُومٌ, and even if they were to see a portion of the sky falling down, they will say, oh, it is a cloud which is just gathered up in heaps. So they will always have an answer, they will always have a reason, they will always try to reason out and rationalize out every single thing which happens around you. They'll never try to accept the miraculous nature of something because they don't want to. So if you talk about the signs and the miracles which Musa alayhi salatu brought, they will have reasons for that. Or there was a particular algae growing in the Nile which made the Nile look red, or there happened to be a large group of locusts in the area, there was a swarm going past, and then due to the swarm of locusts, lots of frogs breeded in order to actually eat the locusts. And all these theories will come about in order to accept, in order not to accept the other view, which is that it was a miracle. So anything will be acceptable apart from that it's a miracle. That's not science. Okay, that's not science. Okay, deduction is that if you remove all of the possibilities, whatever is left, no matter how absurd it might sound to a person, then that is the correct thing because you've eliminated everything else. You can't accept these other points just happen to, the probability is going to be extremely high, but it's just all coincidental that and by chance that seems to be all fitting together, which has never repeated itself since. Yet it happens once and it can be acceptable because the alternative is just too much to take. Why? Because a miracle will mean that a God exists, and accepting a God existing is problematic for some people. وَاصْبِرْ لِحُكْمِ رَبِّكَ فَإِنَّكَ بِأَعْيُنِنَا, and be patient for the judgment of your Rabb, for indeed you are under our supervision. وَسَبِّحْ بِحَمْدِ رَبِّكَ, and glorify by the praise of your Rabb, حِينَ تَقُومُ, when you stand and get up from sleep, وَمِنَ اللَّيْلِ, and during the night, فَسَبِّحْهُ, and also glorify him, وَإِدْبَارَ النُّجُومِ, on the setting of the stars. So this is talking about the certain times of the day. And then we reach to Surah Najm. وَالنَّجْمِ إِذَا هَوَى, and the moon, the star when it goes down. مَا ضَلَّ صَاحِبُكُمْ وَمَا غَوَى, and your colleague is not astray, nor has he made error. وَمَا يَنْتِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَى, and he does not speak from his own desires. إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيُ يُوحَى, it is not except revelation which he is receiving. عَلَّمَهُ شَدِيدُ الْقُوَى, he is being taught by the one who is of extreme strength. ذُو مِرَّةٍ فَاسْتَوَى وهو بالأفق الأعلى ثم دنا فتدلى فكان قاب قوسين أو أدنى فأوحى إلى عبده ما أوحى ما كذب الفؤاد وما رأى أَفَتُمَارُونَهُ عَلَى مَا يَرَى. So you can see the nature of them and the rhythm of them. I read that intentionally so that you could see the ending. So a very different style now, a very different composition of the Quran. So you can see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has exhausted all means accessible to humans. Because remember, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is writing for a human audience, or he's speaking rather for a human audience. So when he speaks for a human audience, then he's using all compositions, all styles, all various methodologies which will be convincing enough for a decent person, convincing enough for an open-minded person to accept the reality. But for those who've got closed minds, for those who've already reached their conclusions, for those who aren't happy to look at any alternatives and are blinkered and accept the way that they're on, for them clearly it won't have any effect whatsoever, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself has said that. Because this is only for those who Allah has given something in their hearts. And if He's given something in their hearts, then they will be able to that. Those whose hearts is sealed, then these arguments will not work on them. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that these arguments won't work on them. He's mentioned it many a times that these arguments will only work on those people whose hearts are susceptible to this, whose hearts are open to this, who are good people generally deep down, and they will accept this. But for those who are evil people, bad people, right to the core, then you will use all these arguments and some, but it won't change anything. It will not change them at all. And then Allah SWT also says, but if He wanted to, if He wanted everybody to accept Islam, if He wanted everybody to be Muslim, either He would have made it compulsory under compulsion or coercion, or He would have made everybody Muslim, and that would have been easy. There would have been no need to send a book. You just make everybody Muslim. Khalas, end of. But that's not the way Allah SWT wants to do it. The way Allah SWT wants to do it, His way is that He wants to give people an option so that they choose, so then they can reap the rewards, or they can take the punishment of what they did. Now obviously realizing we've got about just over half an hour or so and we've reached a quarter, so there's other couple of surahs that I do want to share with you which you would have come across, but let's just read a few beginning to Surah Al-Qamar. And اقتربت الساعة وانشق القمر. The hour draws close and the moon has split. And this was the time when the Prophet ﷺ was alive, when the moon was split. And when they see a sign, they turn away from it and they say that this is just magic, this is just another illusion, and this is another this and whatever. And they deny it. وَاتَّبَعُوا أَهْوَاءَهُمْ, and they follow their desires, they follow their own ideas, they follow their own ways, even though those ways and those ideas are contradictory to an open mind, fair analysis of what they see around them. وَكُلُّ أَمْرٍ مُسْتَقِرٍ, and every matter will be settled. And one of the unique nature in this particular surah is the repetition that Allah SWT brings in. So if we just pick it up from here, وَحَمَلْنَاهُ عَلَى, this is on page 737, وَحَمَلْنَاهُ عَلَى ذَاتِ أَلْوَاحٍ وَدُسَرٍ, and we carried him upon planks which were nailed together. تَجْرِي بِأَعْيُنِنَا, he flew under our supervision, not sort of flew as in he flew as in to flow. Okay, he flowed, maybe that would have been a better word to use. He flew. Okay, he flowed under our supervision. جَزَاءً لِمَنْ كَانَ كُفِرٍ, as a recompense for those who denied. وَلَقَدْ تَرَكْنَاهَا آيَةً, and we left it as a sign. فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ, so is there anybody to recall and remember? فَكَيْفَ كَانَ عَذَابِي وَنُذُرِ, so how is my punishment and my warning? وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ, and indeed we have made the Quran easy for remembering, so is there anybody to remember it? كَذَّبَتْ عَادٌ فَكَيْفَ كَانَ عَذَابِي وَنُذُرِ, and Ad denied, so how was my punishment and my warning? إِنَّا أَرْسَلْنَا عَلَيْهِمْ رِيحًا صَرْصَارًا, we sent against them a hurricane wind, فِي يَوْمٍ نَحْسٍ mustamir, as an evil, on a day of evil omen and continuous calamity. تنزع الناس كأنهم أعجاز نخل منقعر, the people were plucked out as though they were stems of date palm trees which were uprooted. So they literally pulled out of the ground with this hurricane. فكيف كان عذابي ونذر. And again we have وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. So you're seeing a different style which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is employing here. Short, snappy, making really graphical points, making real, heavy points. but with a flow and a rhythm attached to it as well. And you know, for those of you who are reading it, you can see the end ayats, the way they're matching. So it's a unique style, it's a unique nature, and we've not really, and I haven't intentionally gone over the kind of literature quality that you have and the poetic quality that we have in front of us with respect to the Quran, which was unmatched by any poetry or literature or prose that was available to people in that time. Remember, we've seen Isa alayhi salatu wasalam performing miraculous medical miracles, and we've seen Musa alayhi salatu wasalam perform what looks like miraculous in those times, very magical, even though he wasn't performing magic, it looked magical. And the reason being is because magic was the science of the day when Musa alayhi salatu wasalam was proclaiming his message, and medicine was the art of the day when Isa alayhi salatu wasalam was proclaiming his message. So when Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was proclaiming his message, the art and the science of the day was poetry, was language. And the word Arab means eloquent, and the word Ajam means somebody who is dumb, somebody who cannot speak proficiently, somebody who is not well educated, not somebody who is not well spoken. So that's how much pride and arrogance that they had in the Arabic language, did the Arabs. Yet here comes Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, a man who's not been taught by any other man, a man who has spent most of his life leading a very simple, secluded life and just living a normal life. He comes at the age of 40 and he starts to speak words which absolutely amaze the elite poets and literary experts within the Arab lands. And I'm not talking just Mecca, within the Arab lands. And there is nobody that can compete with him. They try to imitate it and basically copy word for word. And we've seen examples of that. They'll take a surah and copy it. Well, anyone can copy. Anyone can take something which exists, slightly modify and claim it as their work. Anyone can do that. That's not their creative work. That's just imitation. Imitation is flattery, to be honest. So when you see people imitating the Quran, that's showing the unique nature of the Quran, that he can't come up with something to compete with it, which is of his own creation, that he basically has to take a verse of the Quran or a few verses of the Quran and make a few changes to a few words and say, there you go, I've equaled the Quran. No, you haven't. You've actually proven the the high quality of the Quran, that you couldn't take the Quran on, but what you had to do was take the verses and slightly modify them in order to challenge it. So it's not something that can be, it's not something that can be equal, never mind something that can be challenged because of this unique nature. But because it's in the Arabic language, and because most of the audience that will be listening, and also because the maqsad, the purpose and the goal of these lectures has never been to give you an Arabic understanding or to develop your Arabic or to delve very deeply into the word meanings and how they can be understood and the context and everything else associated with it. For that, you'll need to spend some quality time with somebody in order to this. Our purpose has been right from word go, is to link to this message, is to connect with this message. That's what it's about. So we had that, and as we go further down, we see inna arsalna alayhim sayhatan wahidatan fakanu kahashimil muhtathir. Indeed, we sent against them a single shriek, and they were like present in terms of a building, sort of Hashim destroyed, a force which is destroyed. وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا. But the reason why I wanted to particularly mention this part is the verse which follows, which is وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. So you've seen that again and again and again, and it does come repeatedly. We have another here on 739. وَلَقَدْ سَبَّحَهُمْ بُكْرَةً عَذَابٌ مُسْتَقِرٌ فَذُوقُوا عَذَابِي وَنُذُرْ وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is very careful. Obviously, He's Allah, He's a God, He is the Almighty, He is the All-Powerful, He is the All-Knowledge. His knowledge is immense, it's incredible. His greatness is far excels anything that we can even understand. His uniqueness, He is above and above all. He is the sole purpose, or should be the sole purpose of our lives. He is, I can't praise Him enough, I can't extol His virtues enough, of his unique nature. So when he uses words which have come again, then there's a set purpose for that. And you can see here it's a remarkable kind of rhythm, a very poetic rhythm, where we've seen that people have used repetition and getting the repetition right, where if you repeat it too much, it loses its impact. If you don't repeat it enough, it doesn't really have, it's completely lost as a tool within writing. But if you use it just about right, it has a significant impact on the listener and on the reader. Khair, we get to the end of Surah Qamar, Najm, Qamar. They're all becoming a mismatch, and it is the 27th, so you're going to have to forgive me for the many errors. We all are getting tired, and this is probably my second or third recording today, so I ask for apologies. Surah Ar-Rahman, and I seek forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Surah Ar-Rahman, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Ar-Rahman, Allama al-Qur'an, Khalaqa al-Insan, Allamahu al-Bayan. Ar-Rahman, meaning this is his name, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's name. He taught the Qur'an. He created humans, and he taught them eloquent speech. Ash-Shamsu wal-Qamaru bi-Husban. The sun and the moon are there for reckoning in terms of time. وَالنَّجْمُ وَالشَّجْرُ يَسْجُدَانِ. And the star and the other smaller stars are all accepting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in terms of he says prostration, meaning they're submitting themselves to him. وَالسَّمَاءَ رَفَعَهَا وَوَضَعَ الْمِيزَانِ. And we raise the skies and we place the scales. أَلَّا تَطْغَوْا فِي الْمِيزَانِ. And don't transgress in the scales when it comes to weighing things. وَأَقِيمُوا الْوَزْنَ بِالْقِسْطِ وَلَا تُخْسِرُوا الْمِيزَانِ. And we established the weighing with justice, and we didn't reduce and do not reduce in anything when it comes to measure. وَالْأَرْضَ وَضَعَ لِلْأَنَامِ. And the earth we have placed for its creatures. فِيهَا فَاكِهَةٌ. In there are fakiha, fruits. وَالنَّخْلُ. And date palm, ذَاتُ الْأَكْمَامِ. Which are all sheathed in fruit stalks and their skin. وَالْحَبُّ. And corn, ذُو الْأَصْفِ وَالرَّيْحَانِ. Which is the leaves of the stalk, which is used for fodder, and the rayhan, which is sweet scented plant. فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ. So which of the favors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will you deny? خَلَقَ الْإِنسَانَ مِنْ صَلْصَالٍ كَالْفَخَّارِ. We've created man from sounding clay, like the sort of clay pot. Okay. وَخَلَقَ الْجَانَّ مِنْ مَارِجٍ مِنْ نَارٍ. And we've created the jinn from smokeless fire. فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ. So which of the signs will you two, meaning jinn and humans, deny? رَبُّ الْمَشْرِقَيْنِ وَرَبُّ الْمَغْرِبَيْنِ فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ مَرَجَ الْبَحْرَيْنِ يَلْتَقِيَانِ بَيْنُهُمَا بَرْزَخٌ لَا يَبْغِيَانِ. So we've already mentioned the meeting place of the two types of seas where they meet, and between them there is a barrier which cannot be transgressed. فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّ. So which of your favors? So this is sort of like, just one after another, just making a statement. What are you going to deny? What are you going to deny? You can sort of see this in a very kind of taking the offensive. When you continue, what's your problem? No, what's your problem? There's how can you not be right? How can you? And when you're trying to kind of make that point, and you're continuously punching the point home, and it really establishes within the mind after reading it, the thing, let me give you an example. Let me give you a kind of worldly example. Let's just say it's a father trying to stress to his child what he's done for him, because his child is misbehaving, his child is, doing things wrong. So he said, look, kid, I raised you. How can you disrespect me? I took you to school. How can you disrespect me? I educated you. How can you disrespect me? I helped you through this. How can you disrespect me? I put a house over your head. How can you disrespect me? So the point that the father is trying to make is, how can you disrespect me? But he's using it by giving example after example after example in order to build up this case. Because he could have easily said, how could you disrespect me? I'll be so good to you. But would that have the same emphasis? Would that have the same impact? No, it wouldn't. But when you build up this, and I use many, to be honest, and I'm not just saying this, but I've used many of the styles that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala adopts when he's trying to change behavior. Because obviously what I don't mean by trying to change behavior that is na'udhu billah min zalik, he's incapable, when he's suggesting ways and arguments for changing behavior. And those are the same arguments and styles that I will use when I'm trying to change behavior as well of those individuals who put under my responsibility, or change a person's attitude towards something. So sometimes it's got to be like this, point, repetition, point, repetition, point, repetition. So eventually at the end of it, the point that's ringing inside this person's mind, that of which of the favors of you, which of the favors you're going to deny, is that it will come to me that Allah SWT has done a lot for me. Like the young boy will say, my father's done a lot for me. And what happens is then there's a change of behavior. That's the aim. There's a change of behavior in that the boy then respects his father. In this case, we appreciate and we are grateful and we express gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for what he has done for us. That's the point. And you'll see it throughout this Surah Rahman, mentioned again and again and again. I've turned a few sides, so let's pick it up over here. وَلِمَنْ خَافَ مَقَامَ رَبِّهِ جَنَّتَانِ. And for that person who fears the status of his Rabb, you'll have two gardens. فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ. ذَوَاتَ أَفْنَانِ. They will be with spreading branches, loaded heavy branches. فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ. فِيهِمَا عَيْنَانِ تَجْرِيَانِ. In there, there'll be two types of fountains and rivers flowing. فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ. Comes again and again and again. It's a really kind of what I would call in-your-face type methodology in order to change individuals. So you've seen various styles which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has used. So no human can say that, Ya Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I wasn't convinced, or there wasn't a convincing argument. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has used all the convincing arguments within these two covers and has left that for man. Now it is the responsibility of us humans to take this argument out to the wide public and also explain it from this perspective so they get a better idea. With that discussion, we come to the end of Surah Rahman and we reach Surah Al-Waqi'ah, another one which you may be familiar with. As we do also get to the end, particularly when we reach Amma Para, you will come across surahs which you will be more familiar with because you'll be reciting them hopefully throughout the year as well, rather than just reciting them in the month of Ramadan. So Surah Al-Waqi'ah, the event. إِذَا وَقْعَتِ الْوَاقِعَةِ. When the event takes place, لَيْسَ لِوَقْعَتِهَا كَاذِبَةٌ. There is no denying its time. خَافِضَةٌ رَافِعَةٌ. When it will bring low, it will be exalted as well. إِذَا رُجَّتِ الْأَرْضُ رَجَّةً. When the earth will be shaken. وَبُسَّتِ الْجِبَالُ بَسًّا. And when the mountains will be pulverized. فَكَانَتْ هَبَاءً مُنْبَثًّا. And when the dust particles will be floating. وَكُنْتُمْ أَزْوَاجًا ثَلَاثًا. And you will be split up into three groups. فَأَصْحَابُ الْمَيْمَنَةِ. There will be the group on the right hand side. مَا أَصْحَابُ الْمَيْمَنَةِ. What about the group on the right hand side? وَأَصْحَابُ الْمَشْأَمَةِ. And then there will be a group on the left hand side. مَا أَصْحَابُ الْمَشْأَمَةِ. What about the group on the left hand side? وَالسَّابِقُونَ السَّابِقُونَ. And there will be those at the front, and they will be at the front. أُولَٰئِكَ الْمُقَرَّبُونَ. They are the ones who are the closest to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فِي جَنَّاتِ النَّعِيمِ. In gardens of bliss. ثُلَّةٌ مِنَ الْأَوَّلِينَ. There will be a large group from the previous generations, but قَلِيلٌ مِنَ الْآخِرِينَ. A smaller group from the later generations. عَلَىٰ سُرُرٍ مَوْضُونَةٍ. And they will be on thrones, they will be on couches of gold and precious stones. مُتَّكِئِينَ عَلَيْهَا مُتَقَابِلِينَ. They'll be reclining upon them, facing one another. And then there's much discussion again of Jannah and what the person will get, and it describes all that what they will earn. Then he mentions وَأَصْحَابُ الْيَمِينَ. وَأَصْحَابُ الْيَمِينَ مَا أَصْحَابُ الْيَمِينَ. فِي سِدْرٍ مَخْضُودٍ. They will be in lote trees which are thornless. وَطَلْحٍ مَنْضُودٍ. They will be in banana trees with fruits and piled on top of one another. وَذِلٍّ مَمْدُودٍ. And they will be in shade which will be extended. وَمَاءٍ مَكْسُوبٍ. And they will be in water, مَاءٍ مَسْكُوبٍ. There will be water which will be flowing continuously. وَفَاكِهَةٍ كَثِيرًا. And there will be plenty of fruit. لَا مَقْطُوعَةٍ وَلَا مَمْنُوعَةٍ. There will be no stopping, there will be no restrictions, and nor will there be no prevention. وَفُرُشٍ مَرْفُوعَةٍ. And there will be raised thrones. إِنَّا أَنْشَأْنَاهُنَّ إِنْشَاءً فَجَعَلْنَاهُنَّ أَبْكَارًا أُرُبًا أَتْرَابًا لِأَصْحَابِ الْيَمِينَ. ثُلَّةٌ مِنَ الْأَوَّلِينَ. There will be a large group of them from previous generations. وَثُلَّةٌ مِنَ الْآخِرِينَ. And there will be a large group of them from latter generations. وَأَصْحَابُ الشِّمَالِ. The people of the left hand side. mentions them. They will be fi samumim wa hamim. They will be in a fierce hot wind with boiling water. Wa dhillim min yahmum, and clouded over with black smoke. La baridin wa la kareem. There'll be no coolness there, no calmness. Innahum kanu qabla dhalika mutrafin, and they were before this living a life of indulgency and luxury. وَكَانُوا يُسِرُّونَ عَلَى الْحِنْثِ الْعَظِيمِ وَكَانُوا يَقُولُونَ أَإِذَا مِتْنَا وَكُنَّا تُرَابًا وَإِذَا مَنْ أَإِنَّا لَمَبْعُوثُونَ. They used to say these things. People say them now. That when we die and we become dust and bone, are we going to be resurrected? Do we come back to life? أَوَ آبَاؤُنَا الْأَوَّلُونَ, even our forefathers? قُلْ إِنَّ الْأَوَّلِينَ وَالْآخِرِينَ لَمَجْمُوعُونَ إِلَى مِيقَاتِ يَوْمٍ مَعْلُومٍ. Say that the people at the beginning, earlier generations and the later generations will all be gathered together on a fixed day and a known time, a time of a known day. ثُمَّ إِنَّكُمْ أَيُّهَا الضَّالُونَ الْمُكَذِّبُونَ. And he mentions what they will have and what they will go through in terms of the abode that they will reside in. And then we reach Surah Al-Hadid, where we still have some couple of pages left. سَبَّحَ لِلَّهِ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَهُوَ الْعَزِيزُ الْحَكِيمُ. Glorification is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala of that which is heaven. So basically, oh, I am really struggling today, aren't I? Everything which is in the heavens and the earth glorifies Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And He is Al-Aziz Al-Hakim. For Him is the mulkus samawati wal ard, the dominion of the heavens and the earth. Yuhyi wa yumit, He gives life and He gives death. Wa huwa ala kulli shay'in qadir. Huwa al-awwalu wal-akhiru wal-zahiru wal-batinu. He is the first and the last. He is the apparent and He is the batin, the not apparent. Wa huwa bi kulli shay'in alim. Huwa alladhi khalaqa as-samawati wal-arda fi sittati ayyamin thumma istawa ala al-arsh. Ya'lamu ma yaliju fil ardi wa ma yakhruju minha wa ma yanzilu min as-sama'i wa ma ya'ruju fiha. Wa huwa ma'akum ayna ma kuntum wallahu bima ta'maluna basir. And this surah glorifies Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, explains His status and what His capabilities are and what He does and how much authority He has, absolute authority to do as He chooses, as He pleases, none His equal, none anywhere near it. And that's what the verse is describing. And then again we have the discussion about those who are going to Jannah, what they will get in Jannah. Those who are going to Jahannam, what they will get in Jahannam. It's nice and simple, easy for everybody to understand, easy for everybody to accept of what is being requested from them. وَمَا الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا, we're on 754. وَمَا الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا مَتَاعُ الْغُرُورِ. And the life of this world is not but a provision of deception. That's all it is. It deceives people thinking it's something more than it is. And those people who fall for this deception are the very same people who think that they're enlightened. That's the sad thing. It's the very same people who think they're enlightened and fall for this world. They think this is the holy world. They think this is the world that you should thrive in. They think this is the world you should live for. They think this is the world, this is the be all and end all. Yet they're the very same ones who consider themselves to be enlightened. They're the very same ones who consider themselves to be superior. They're the very same ones who consider themselves to be the intelligent. Yet they're the ones that fall into this trap, that this life of this world, they don't know that this is actually a massive deception, massive illusion in terms of the reality of it as to its how it lasts for and what we should be aiming for. But they're the very first ones who fall for it. لَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا رُسُلُنَا بِالْبَيِّنَاتِ وَأَنزَلْنَا مَعَهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْمِيزَانَ لِيَقُومَ النَّاسُ بِالْقِسْطِ. And indeed we have sent messengers with proofs, and we've sent down with them the book and the measure so that the people can establish justice. وَأَنزَلْنَا الْحَدِيدِ. And we've sent down the iron. And some have used this word that, hold on, Allah says وَأَنزَلْنَا, we've sent down the iron. And again, folk are saying now, scientists are saying now that the iron itself could not have formed on the planet. It must have come from outside the planet. So some have drawn the connection between the two. فِيهِ بَعْسٌ شَدِيدٌ. In there is great harm that you can inflict with the swords that you can make with the iron, with the arrows that you can make from it, and anything else for that matter. وَمَنَافِعُ, but it also has benefits. We've learned from steel, and now we obviously other metals as well. Iron. We've learned from iron and other metals as well that they're very useful to us. Now we're moving on to trying to replace the metal, but they're very, very useful. وَلِيَعْلَمَ اللَّهُ مَنْ يَنْصُرُهُ وَرُسُلَهُ بِالْغَيْبِ, in order that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can know, makes apparent really, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala already knows, so that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can make apparent who is helping him, meaning helping the deen and his messengers in the unseen. إِنَّ اللَّهَ قَوِيٌّ عَزِيزٌ. وَلَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا نُوحًا, indeed we sent Nuh alayhi salam, wa Ibrahim and Ibrahim, وَجَعَلْنَا فِي ذُرِّيَّتِهِمَا النَّبُوَّةَ, and we have made in also their progeny prophethood, wal-kitab, and book, فَمِنْهُمْ مُحْتَدٍ, and they are them who are guided from their families, but also وَكَثِيرٌ مِّنْهُمْ فَاسِقُونَ, many from their families are fasiq. ثُمَّ قَفَّيْنَا عَلَىٰ آثَارِهِمْ بِرُسُلِنَا وَقَفَّيْنَا بِعِيسَى ابْنِ مَرْيَمَ وَآتَيْنَاهُ الْإِنْجِيلَ, and in this way قَفَّيْنَا, we have sent upon their heels after them many messengers, and we have followed them up after with Isa alayhi salam, the son of Maryam, and we gave him the Injil. وَجَعَلْنَا فِي قُلُوبِ الَّذِينَ اتَّبَعُوهُ رَأْفَةً وَرَحْمَةً, and we have made into the hearts of those people who follow him compassion and mercy. So we see that particularly within the Christian faith, people are more understanding, people have more mercy, people have more inclination towards the truth. وَرَحْبَانِيَّةً, and also monasticism, ibtada'unaha, that they themselves have invented. I never, ma katabnaha, Allah SWT says, I never enjoined that upon them. Ma katabnaha alayhim, I did not do that. All I said to them was, live your normal life, but they've separated. So the men are separated from the women, and when the women become nuns, they separate from men, and they live a life of extreme zuhud, where they don't have any worldly goals or aims at all. But Allah SWT says, I never made this an injunction upon them. They've done this themselves. And they do this إِلَّا ابْتِغَاءَ رِضْوَانِ اللَّهِ, they're doing this to seek the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَمَا رَأَوْهَا حَقَّ رِعَايَتِهَا, but then they're not able to fully observe it, because humans are humans, and a man will want to get married, a woman will want to get married, they want to live a normal life, earn money, so they find it extremely difficult to do. So why invent something in your religion which you then can't keep up with? فَآتَيْنَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مِنْهُمْ أَجْرَهُمْ وَكَثِيرٌ مِنْهُمْ فَاسِقُونَ يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. And as we come to the last few ayats, and I take some air. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, or all those of you believe, ittaqullah, have fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, wa aminu bi rasuli, and believe in his messenger. Yu'tikum kiflayni, you'll get double the portion min rahmati, from his mercy. Why? Because you followed Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, and now that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, you're now following him. Wa yaj'al lakum nura, and he will make for you a light. Tamshuna bihi, you'll be able to walk with this light. وَيَغْفِرْ لَكُمْ, and he will forgive for you your sins. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Ghafoor and he is Rahim. لِأَلَّا يَعْلَمَ أَهْلُ الْكِتَابِ, so that the people of the book will know, أَلَّا يَقْدِرُونَ عَلَى شَيْءٍ مِّن فَضْلِ اللَّهِ وَأَنَّ فَضْلَ بِيَدِ اللَّهِ يُؤْتِيهِ مَن يَشَاءُ وَاللَّهُ ذُو الْفَضْلِ الْعَظِيمِ, that they do not know the extent of the bounty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and know that the bounty and the favor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with him, in his power, he has authority over it, and he gives it to who he wills. So if he chooses a man, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, from the Arabs, then he chooses a man, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, from the Arabs. It's not our decision to say whether Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made a correct or incorrect decision. He knows best. It's his to give. Wallahu dhul fadlil adhim, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is possessor of great bounty. And that probably around an hour just brings us to the end of the 27th para. We then, inshallah, tomorrow when you can join me, we'll start on the 28th, and then we're 28, 29, 30. We're already 3 away to completing our khatam, mashallah. I hope you're all going to get me tight and share it. Just put some in front of the screen, and I'll pretend that I've also shared in it as well. And we will leave it there until we meet again tomorrow. So I hope you can join me again. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
القدر التي نزلت بها آيات تذكرة لذي الألباب، يا صائما للشهر محتسبا له، بشراك مغفرة بغير حساب، بشراك مغفرة بغير حساب.